Hello and welcome back to At the Symposium. Today the message is called Drawing the Line. I wanted to speak about this because it relates to my last video on young men. Now, what am I talking about here? Well, I think the best way to do it is just illustrate with a little story and circumstance about something that happened to me recently. So I was recently approached by somebody to speak for an organization or speak at an organization, and I declined. And I kind of wanted to go through my reasoning why I declined to speak at this organization. Because I think it's important today, very important, for just individuals, especially for young men, or for people that just don't feel like what is out there or the people that they're calling them to do certain things is in line with what they believe or with their virtues or with just who they are as a person. This is something I really want to get to, something that they don't relate to. Okay? One of the reasons why I want to say this is because we live in a culture today that's very politicized. And we also live in a culture today where a lot of the political initiatives are seen as, almost as if they're universal, as if everybody wants to join, or as if everybody should join, or as if everybody should come to their side of the aisle. Okay? Again, drawing the line. It's important to draw the line at some point. Why is it important to draw the line at some point? Well, you have to be you. You have to be authentic. You also don't want to leave yourself behind and leave others behind in the process. Take, for instance, I think I've mentioned this in other videos. I'm a person of antiquity, okay? Classical education, philosophy, vacuum tube, audio, and electronics. Most of the things that I love and appreciate are things of years past, okay? So most of what happens in the modern world, I don't relate with. Doesn't really jive with me. Actually, a lot of it is counter to what I appreciate. So, and this is not to say, oh, don't participate in the modern world or don't do, but it's a certain thing of I have to do what I care about and what I believe. Otherwise, I'd be leaving myself behind, and I'd be leaving others behind that also appreciate the same things that I do in the process. There's a couple things I want to mention about this cultural milieu that we're in. Again, it very much sees itself as always coming into somebody else's domain. And this is one of the things that I want you to think about. And it also, again, relates to my message to young men, always coming into somebody else's domain. I think the thing for you to do is to build your own domain, to build your domain and have others come into your domain. Why is that? Again, it's about authenticity. It's about what you can offer and how you can offer it to other people. Instead of people always trying to get you to do their thing. And I think that very much resonates with a lot of people. You understand what I'm talking about today because that's very much the kind of culture that we're in. It's, hey, you come over here. You come join our side. You come join this party. I have no interest. I have no interest, and I might have no reason. I'm okay doing with what I'm doing because I'm doing what I believe. And what I believe doesn't necessarily have to be counter to what you're doing. That's not really the important part. This is why I'm kind of talking about this in a broad sense, because it's not so much about for or against. It's about, does that relate to you? Does that relate to who you are? Does that relate to who you are as a person? Again, I specifically say this to young men because I know that there's not a lot of places for young men or just men in general to really be themselves, because it's a lot of times it's a lot of our spaces, a lot of venues and everything are about something else other than something that might appeal to more of a masculine sensibility a lot of times. And going back to that, being too open-minded, being in this age of open-mindedness, being too open-minded, being too open to what you're going to do with yourself and how you participate in the world in different things, and what you allow yourself to be a part of, it might lead you to be inauthentic. I kind of did a little brainstorming and calculation in my head the other day. I probably spent the last 10 years of my life in places that I didn't really relate to. Now, I chose to be in those places, and I gained something from being there, like, for instance, being in liberal arts schools. And not that I regret those situations, but a lot of stuff is going on really had nothing to do with who I am or what I cared about, or, who I am as a person. That doesn't mean I didn't meet great people, don't have good relationships with people that I met and all this kind of stuff. No, that's all there. Some of my, closest friends, or the closest people I know in life are some of the people, that I went to college with and things of that nature. But at the same time, in the grand scope, a lot of it just didn't have to do with who I was or what I believed. Again, is it wrong to do that? No, I think it's good to do that. I think it's great to expose yourself to other things. But at the same time, especially today, we need to know who we are, where we are, and what we're trying to promote. Because your body, again, especially related to young men, or just men in general, your presence is going to contribute something to whatever you're involved in. This is really for anybody. It doesn't have to really, it's not really specific to men, but your presence is going to mean more. I think it means more in a male context, because there's so much like, I don't want to say confusion, but there's so many negative ideas going around about men, toxic masculinity, and all this kind of deal, and everything. There's so much fluidity and controversy around males and just about gender in general. So you coming into something as a man, I think in a lot of ways today is very, it means more than, it might mean more than what you think it means, I think you have to be weary of what you participate in today, because if it really doesn't align with who you are, then you might not be standing for your idea of masculinity. You might not be standing for your authentic self. Okay. And part of being a masculine person is going to be standing for what you believe, and standing for who you are as a person is very important. Now, of course, I know someone might get on here and say, "Oh, well, that's not important to women." No, of course it's important to women, but it's very important. It's a distinguish. I think it's a distinguishing thing for individuals in general, but I think in particular, a distinguishing feature in men. Men need to do things. In order for a man to be okay and proud of himself, he needs to be consistent with his virtues. Okay. This is partly why men are judged harsher for how virtuous they are. Men need to be in line with their virtues. Men need to be in line usually with some kind of objective, cultural, or moral idea of virtue that's in a certain culture, and they also need to be in line with their own virtues. That's what we call integrity, right? How much integrity does he have? People are always curious about that, right? Because it's about how we judge a male character. Oftentimes, it's how we judge everybody, but in particular men. They're judged by their integrity, and their integrity comes from who he says he is and how he acts, right? And if you're going in places and you're supporting things that you really don't believe in, or you don't really relate to, then I don't know if you're really standing for yourself or what you believe. I don't know if you're really being your authentic self. And unfortunately, this is one of the kind of lapses and problems that I see with a lot of the justice movements and things that's going on today. And this is where I think they have a blind spot, where they don't realize, well, yeah, we want to put things in the guise of, doing the good for all people and doing this for everybody, and everybody should join us and be like us and have our approach. There are people that might believe what you believe, but they don't want to. They're not trying to do it the way that you want to do it. There's certain things I would never do just because of the way it's carried out. You see, everybody has also even a particular way of carrying out their message. This is part of my chosen way of carrying out their message. Another thing is, I like to write. So that's another way of carrying out my message. If you're telling me to go stand on the sidewalk with a placard about something I believe, even though it might resonate with my virtues, and you're saying, hey, well, yeah, let's hold up signs on the corner, I'm probably not going to do that. Probably ever, no matter what. It's just not my way of practice. Again, it's not who I am. It's not something I would do. So it could be for a good cause. It could be for something I believe in, but that's not really my authentic self. That's not my way of practice. So I'm not going to behave in that manner. Again, I'm going to be true to myself and consistent with who I feel like I am. Again, we can't participate in this world that seems to be very unilateral. Again, it's always coming to the other side of the aisle. Let's build ourselves up and always leave the door open for others to come in and show them what you have going on. All of this can lead to a certain type of alienation if you don't stay in accordance with your values. People are already alienated enough just because of the separation that we have with people now, because of how we communicate is different now in society, because of social media and technology. Again, certain groups can be more isolated. I would put young men definitely in that category. Why give yourself to something else that might alienate you further from what you believe? Because whatever your beliefs are, they might not be many spaces for it. Like I said, coming back to myself, there are not a lot of spaces where people are talking about, vacuum tube audio or something, or, the audiophile world. Most of the things I do are very niche, right? And it's fine. Again, I'm not trying to make some woe is me kind of argument. Again, I also farm, stuff like that. Not a very popular thing, okay? Now, I don't need to just be around a bunch of farmers all the time and talking about farming. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is not really relating to the average person in the average world, right? Because of what you do and your values are different than what circulates around for the most part. That's what I'm talking about. And that can lead to a certain type of alienation, and you might already be alienated. Again, when they talk about young men, they talk about the alienation of young men. My message to you is don't alienate yourself further by participating in things that you don't really believe in, and stick with who you are and what you believe, and find places to carry that out, or create some place or some space in which you can carry that out. Because again, you don't want to leave yourself behind, and you don't want to leave the others that are like you behind as well. Your presence, your contribution, it means more than you think. Again, this is At the Symposium. Thanks for watching.